it speaks about our journey,
Yeah.
where it all started. And I think the recent one we did was with Carol, where we went back to the Eastern Cape and just obviously spoke about where everything started and how everything started. So to answer your question, I think it has been told.
Does look, nah, I'm Xhosa like yourself, to Tata like yourself. And for me, growing up, I went to Queen's College. So for
Unlucky.
us, I mean, you could say that, seeing as you actually went to Hudson. So I think more important, I think we can start there. There was this intro that I was gonna do. This is a man that who joins an illustrious league of being a one club man. This is a guy that has, played under different coaches at the Sharks, and we're gonna get to that. But this is also a man who, in our culture, most his peers would say Jan, Rotman, but this guy, Tata, who we in Eastern Cape, we've looked up to him and his brother, pioneers in our region and transformed that into other regions, like your KwaZulu-Natals, like your Northern Gautengs. So, and this man started in Hudson Park. Tell me, how did Odwa Ndungane, how was he like at Hudson Park?
How was he at Hudson Park? So, before siye eMonti,
Yeah.
sasihlala eMthatha, eGqulu.
Yes.
There we went to St. Patrick's, which was a walking distance from Ekaya.
Yeah.
Going to school there was very comfortable. It was an all-black school. And like I'd mentioned, my whole family was there. It was where I grew up. So everything was comfortable. And now when we moved to East London, you can just imagine we were 13, 14 at the time.
Yeah.
And we go to a Model C school, which was known at the time.
Yeah.
And for us, it was the first time actually having a close encounter with Umlungu. After having only seen them on TV and on paper and magazines. So you can imagine the shock and the fear of being in this space where you have to adjust and get comfortable very quickly. So I think, to come back to your question, it was a lot of learning, and I think sasibona nathi the opportunities that were going to come with being at that school, because at St. Patrick's, ayingekho irugby. So we 100%. Used to play soccer and we did athletics. So coming to Hudson Park, under 14 was the first time we actually got involved with rugby training. As we were growing up, we used to watch my dad play. So you can imagine if it's 5 or 6 of us, then we're playing with a rugby ball. It's a bit easier and there's no pressure. But now you must come into the school and there's 30 of you. Now you must adapt and start to learn how to play a game which you've never been exposed to, because I guess I see now with my boy, they've started playing rugby at 6, 7 years. So at 14 now to actually start training in a rugby team, so your eyes are wide open. Isilungu sakho asikho strong kakhulu, but and to communicate Isilungu quickly. So it was a very nice journey, but sometimes izinto ziyenzeka and you don't know why it's happening. You worry that it's not the place you want to be. But I always say that my mother decided that, I want to take my kids to East London for a better future. And Safika Hudson Park. I think maybe another thing that also helped us was when we left Mthatha, she came along with us. She didn't just put us in. So that helped us adjust and just get to be a bit more comfortable. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
no, it does. It does. Like, who would have thought? I truly thought Ekalen uzoya Selborne, mhlambi Cambridge, maybe uthi boarding school, Grey PE, like our current captain Asaz. But I can see you as La Hatsonian, that one.
So I was following you when you were saying I could have thought you would have gone to Selborne, and then when you went over to Cambridge, I kind of like switched off because Cambridge and Hudson, they're more or less there. We are a little bit better, but funny enough to say that we applied to go to a Dale College.
Oh,
and so there's 4 of us at home, 4 brothers, a younger brother, my twin brother, and the older brother. The older brother, the 3 of us all applied to go to Dale College. Somehow it worked out that he got accepted to Dale. And
wow.
Dale said, no, there's no space for us. We applied at Selborne, they didn't have space for us, and we managed to get into Hudson Park.
What are the odds that 2 Springbok men coming from your family and they come from Hudson while the other school said no? That is very interesting.
Yeah. But that's part of life, isn't it? Sometimes you knock on doors and they don't open, and you just have to accept and move on. So, I mean,
speaking of doors, like after the year 05, forgive me if my dates, but I think after 05, then you knocked or maybe they knocked on your door, the Sharks. Can you tell me how did that even start?
So I was playing for Border for quite a while, and then 2000, and you don't mind me going back so that I can relay the story.
Please.
So 2002, I started having a conversation with Hane Kamea, who was at the Bulls at the time. And then he said he wanted me to come there. So I was like, I think we Border, I've been playing for them since 2001, 2002. And I was quite happy, but somehow, I wanted to go further. So when the Bulls came knocking, I said, definitely.
Be package. Number B in you and Akona go, or okay.
So to answer the package part is Akona, when I got the contract to play for Border, he didn't get the contract. He actually got an offer from the EPU, which were the Elephants in those days.
Elephants. Yes.
And he left.
Still is.
Yeah. So he left to go play in PE. And then I played in Border for the 2 years. And then when the Bulls came, I left. And then he came to Border. And then I played under Hane Kamea and Rudy Jube, who was coaching Super 10 at that time. So they had Rudy coaching Super 10 and Haneka was coaching the Currie Cup. But you know what, Lita, to be quite honest, I had a bit of a culture shock going to the Bulls. Everything was Afrikaans. When I say everything, I mean the meetings, everything that you write, like the programs, the weekly programs were all in Afrikaans. So you had to just sink or swim. And somehow I didn't really enjoy that. So when the Sharks called me mid-2004, I then said, you know what, I have always been a Sharks fan growing up Eastern Cape. I don't know if you remember, if you are old enough to remember coastal teams where Sharks used to play their games in Monty.
Yes, I remember.
And enjoy
stadiums,
exactly. So I think I became a fan that time. And when they said to me, who Kevin Part said they want me to come, I was like, it's a no-brainer. You know, it's an English province. It's closer to home. I've been a fan of the team. And then I left. And then also, again, I left the door open for the guy. So when I left, they got hold of him and he went up to Pretoria.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think nobody knows, like, actually, that you started at Bulls. Like, that was, I mean, I didn't know. I've always known you to play Sharks, but I didn't know you had a stint in Pretoria. So, and also the fact that you started, and as you started Border, but I didn't think the projection was Border, Bulls, then Sharks.
I had 50 caps for Border.
Yes,
I had 50 caps. So
do you miss those days of Border Rugby being announced? Is because people would know that as much as people know Border is an establishment for a lot of our, dare I say, our black players, but I mean, Border was as you know, a powerhouse in rugby. Like, do you miss those days where it was?
I think anyone that comes from the Eastern Cape would want their, call it, home province to be doing well, especially what you've just said there, the amount of talent that is there. Angechi, that's what the smaller provinces do. You know, they are a stepping stone for a lot of players to go to the next level. And what I remember very well is how competitive. So you look at the Pumas currently, and you look at Griquas. That's how Border was. You know, I remember one of the years we played Griquas in the Vodacom Cup final, and we won that final. So definitely I miss those days. And sometimes we do talk, you know, guys that are coming from the Eastern Cape about how we wish, you know, things could get back, because talent will always be there. But in Dobkung is that a lot of that talent will just fall by the wayside, because our core platform or our core club that for them to polish their talent and get spotted and get scouted so that they can you know, you spoke about the Springbok captain coming from St. Andrews. We know the stories that 2019 World Cup winners in 23, Abo Lucanyo and Abo Mambimpi.
Yes,
you know, Mambimpi is a good story because there's a lot more. And ARK chance came so late. So how many more than for that talent to be scouted, we need a strong Border team. We need a strong EP team. And it's unfortunate to see where they are right now.
Yeah, but luckily from that, I mean, you went to the Sharks, over 100 caps. Dare I say you're a one-club man? You joined Centurion part, in which a lot of players, and I say Aninzi, that would like just to spend the vast majority of their careers at the union or any other union. Like, what is maybe that one story, like, you come away from all the memories that you've had, Glendale?
Sure. Story.
I'm sure there's a lot, but maybe there's one that's unique to you. Like, tell me the first training session.
I'll tell you this. The experience I had in my first year. So I've told you how when I was growing up, I was a fan. And when we came in 2005, there was a lot of, I think Kevin Part had got to a stage where the guys were getting older that were there. And he was trying to refresh the squad. And he brought in a lot of younger players. When I say younger, I remember the names like about Jacques Bottas, guys from Bloemfontein, the Bismarck and Ruan Pienaar.
Wow.
And there's a lot of us that came at that time. Unfortunately, when there's a lot of changes, the team takes time to gel.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when I got to Sharks, things didn't go as I had hoped for them to go. What I mean by that is, I had the opportunity to play, but my form didn't meet the expectations of my coaches and the goals that I had set for myself. Where I just, when a player loses form badly, where it's even scary to watch, I was at that level. When I say rock bottom, I was at that level. And what was tough at the time, Wakona on the other side, at the Bulls, he was flourishing. And
True.
the Bulls team was doing well. So in 2005, we played the first, I think, 3 or 4 games. No, make it 6 games. And we lost all of those.
Wow.
And I remember we were going to play the Brumbies that Saturday. So Kevin Pat announced his team on Tuesday, and the team was there. I was starting. And then on Wednesday, we got called into a meeting at Sibaya. And at the meeting, we got told Kevin Pat has been booted. And then the new sheriff in town, and that was Dick Muir.
Old Queenian.
Old Queenian. And Dick Muir came, and then he announced the new team, and my name was not in that team. So now you can imagine the shock. And obviously, you know what, to be quite honest, as much as it was tough to take, I completely understand, because I was not performing and I was not playing well. So I hold no grudges about that. But there's a lesson that came from that, where I needed to fight to get back to the level that I wanted to perform at, and the level that I knew would be enough for me to get back into the team. So you can imagine how tough it was being a twin, and your twin is doing well, and there'll always be that comparison. It even came to a time when Dick came to me and said he wants to loan me out to Griquas. So it was quite tough. And, I still remember that meeting like it was yesterday. So when I left the meeting, I phoned my dad and I told him exactly what he says. My father said, no, don't do that. Just go back to him and tell him, listen, you don't want to go on loan. You want to stay there and work and fight to get back into the team.
So he gave you an option. Like, did you maybe consider it at all?
Look, I think when he told me, I was very emotional, and maybe I thought to myself, maybe I must go and pick up form there. But my father knew exactly what was happening. So I think my dad, the reason why he said no was because that's how they possibly get rid of players that are not adding value to what they want. So I had a 2-year contract, and I'd gone for my first year, because the saying that says out of sight, out of mind. So irrespective of how well you do at Griquas, I don't think maybe I would have been the first option to call and come back to try and get back into the team. So the story that I came away with from that experience, I think, was the reason why I understand. Are you okay?
Yeah, it's right. Shame, but don't worry.
Okay.
Okay.
So there's one thing, taking away nothing from the blessings and the opportunities that I got given, but what that lesson I got from 2005 was, you can lose it like that. You can lose your opportunity like that, which made you work even harder, and most importantly, appreciate the opportunity of playing because nothing is guaranteed. And I'm glad that I managed to work my way back into the team. So for me, there's nothing that beats. So that's one of the lessons that every now and again, when I come across younger players, I share that story with them about not taking the opportunities that they have for granted, because once it's gone, you struggle to get it back because mentally, emotionally, you're not in a good space. So when you have it, look after it, treasure it, and make sure that you make it work for you.
But then, yeah, I hear what you're saying, Brandogs, but I'm looking at our current players now, and you told the story about, you coming from this coach to this coach, and I'm sure you've played under various coaches at the Sharks. Is that what the current guys now have to do to fight? Because you've been under somewhat of the same situation where you mentioned the players you played with, Springboks in that mold, World Cup winners in 07, new team, new dynamics, new structures, new owners. Do the guys currently now, do they have to show that same fight as you alumni did?
Even more, I think, Lilitha. I think the current guys are under even more pressure. And I think it's not easy being a player at this day and age, because there's a lot of players that come through the system quite early on. If you look at most teams, their average age will be 24, 25. But when we were playing, the average age was 28, 29. And the expectation now and the pressure that these guys have to live under is that me and you at 21, 22, you make the team, but I don't. Now, the pressure that I put myself under is that my mates that are 22, 23 are all playing. So the challenge now is that I expect to also be playing, because the challenge is all of us, our journey is different. And some of us will make it earlier, some of us might make it later. Where now they don't get the understanding and the value of what patience means. Because in sport, at the highest level, skill difference, the difference between skill level from players is very small. And what sets people apart is their work ethic. So work ethic comes, work ethic comes from patience. You have to be patient to know that my time is coming and believe that your time is coming. But if you're not patient enough, you're not going to put in the effort. You're going to jump ship and say, let me go there. And when things go tough there, you're going to jump ship again. You understand? Because nowadays, a lot of youngsters, like I'd mentioned, the players that are coming through quite early, they have these expectations that I should also be playing. But it doesn't always happen like that. And there's a lot more pressure nowadays with the social media, But the one thing I always say to guys is that they have a very wonderful opportunity, but they must always let the main thing be the main thing. So don't lose sight of what is making you be this household name. It's not your social media. It's not what you do outside of the game, but it's actually what you do between the four white lines. So to come back to your question, you have to make sure that you work even hard to look after that, because once you perform here, everything else becomes easier. But if you can't perform here, you'll struggle to have endorsements. You'll struggle to negotiate your increase in your contract. You'll struggle to make other things come across. So they have to do that much more in my opinion.
And we'll get back to the Sharks in a bit, but I want to go quickly on your time with the Springboks and how that was like. But I actually had a look at your last test. It was back in, correct me if I'm wrong, 2011. I think it was one of those end of the year tours. That I'm not too sure of the team. And I look at the players you played there. Would you still want to play in that era as opposed to the era now where these guys are two-time world champions? Which Springbok time would you want to play in?
I think
because of the players.
I think for me, there is no doubt that the current squad we have is much more talented as a group than we were. Leave individuals. I mean, in the sense of look at what they've achieved, which if me and you can sit here and pick our own team, and we might disagree not on two positions, on more than two positions, and that for me speaks volume about the talent that we currently have. And it's no surprise really that they've gone back to back. So there are many quality players that we had in our time, but overall, I think this squad is definitely the gap between the starters and the guys that are in the suits is not that much. It's not that much because we can put your 15, I'll put my 15, and both our 15s could possibly go beat a lot more other teams. Completely two different teams. So I think that's why, in fact, we were laughing about it. I can't remember when, that I'm not sure if we can possibly repeat rather not repeat, but people talk about Tiger Woods, right? Talk about what is done and talk about all these big, great players. I'm not sure if any time soon we will have a squad as good as what we had in 19 and 23. Based on what they've done and in between the two World Cups, because of even if the main guys that are supposedly starting are not there. Look at Lukhanyo Am, for example. Lukhanyo Am was our main guy, go-to guy at number 13, and we were all worried when Lukhanyo was not there. Up steps Jesse Krill, who's got loads of experience, and he played so much better than he'd played before in other World Cups. Besides Jesse Krill, there was a Kenan Moody who possibly anyone could have said, let's back Kenan Moody ahead of Jesse Krill, and he would have still done the job. Under Esther Hayes and Damien DeLander, they are neck to neck on who to pick. You know what I mean? So look at our 10s. I believe that Mane was a little bit off form in the World Cup with his kicking, but we see now what he does with his kicking at the Stormers, and I have no doubt that he will get back to that 90-80% goal kicker. When you have that, Mane on form and Pollard on form, who do you pick? Just depends on the conditions, really. But both of them are quality. 4 scrum halves. When has that ever been happening? You can pick any of those guys; they'll still perform. So I think and what I like also is how many black players got opportunities, both 19 and 23, which says that there's a lot of talent and guys just need opportunities.
And look at you, like from opportunities, from if I'm Opaga and you're doing pundits for other broadcast station, but even Alapa, Diafig and Hollywoodbets, and you're an ambassador. So it must feel good knowing that your success still delivers not only for other places but even for Laika Hollywoodbets.
So later you'll remember, I think the biggest thing that I mentioned was making sure you look after your number one, which is your game. But couple that with, there's nothing that beats humility. And humility allows you to create relationships. Because if Lilitha becomes a household name, but no one wants to work with him, I can bet you once you are no more that high profile player, no one will want to touch you because of the arrogance that you showed and being difficult to work with. So I think for me, one thing that I always try and share with the guys is that the guys that are playing, the power in creating relationships and understanding that at the end of the day, we're all just human beings. We have just been given an opportunity where God gave you the talent to play the game that you played, but it doesn't make you bigger than the next person. You understand? It doesn't make you at all think now you can bully Lilitha, you can say whatever you want, because at the end of the day, Lilitha today in 2024, we're having an interview. Who's to say where Lilitha will be in 2026? Because at the end of the day, I might come into something that I want and you are there, but because we have a relationship, it's easier for us to work together. So I am very much aware of the power that relationships can create. And one thing that Akon and I speak about is working with people that are similar minded to you. And I think I've had the opportunity of meeting everyone from top down at Hollywoodbets. And I've really seen how humble the number one and number two are, after being so successful, yet they're still human beings. They're still approachable, and they don't act like they are these big, successful business people. So for
100%.
me, that speaks my language as well. And that's the same message that I try and pass on to my kids. It's very important to not think that you are bigger than anybody.
Lastly, yeah, nobody on now for hours. Like, this is so impactful. But hey, lastly, you've been there and done that, got the jerseys, got the tests, got everything you worked hard for and more. What is that one thing that you leave to people, that lasting word? Whereas if I, as a player, can take advice from a legend like yourself, because I feel like we just throw the word legend loosely, and then you throw the word legend so casually. But as you are a legend in this game, nalapa KZN, sometimes people might think walapa, and you need to actually think, oh yeah, actually I've been here for many years. But what is that one thing that you leave to a person and say, you know what, come to Durban, come to the Sharks, play here? Yes, everywhere has its problems. Durban has its problems, but this place right here is where you really truly will step out from the rest. What do you have to say to people?
So what's funny? On Saturday, we were playing golf, Monday golf, and then we played with these two elderly gentlemen. And my wife and I were playing. We actually joined them. And when we were sitting, do you play golf?
I'm actually at the driving range. I'm on Edgecombe, Dishalapa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you play?
I don't play golf. I just go to the driving range. I just hit balls.
Keep going and just working on your swing and pick up golf and play it, because one day you will remember us having this conversation. You could tell Odwa what I must play golf, because there are endless opportunities that come down with the golf. So anyway, we're playing with these two gents, elderly, 75 and 70, two brothers. And as we were sitting there, we spoke about how Durban and the Sharks, everything around the stadium was more like a community. And when we were there, that was the biggest driving force. And I think that has not changed, being the foundation of the current team as well, because of the setup that we have there. I'm not sure if when you're first, I'm not sure if you've been to the stadium or you've ever been to experience that
Yes.
After the game on a
Yes.
kickoff, the braai stands, kids running around.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So that speaks about the community that where players were also accessible to the fans, where players were walking around, fans could mingle and chit chat and ask questions and get autographs. But also, similar to now, in my time, which was so evident, in fact, when we get to the Springbok squad, or rather when you have guys coming from outside, from the Bulls, the Stormers. So at Durban, it's quite a diverse team. There used to be Afrikaans, English, and Xhosa, and there was no dominant language. It was all a nice mix. But if you look to the Lions, the Cheetahs, the Bulls, and the Stormers, it's dominated by Afrikaans. So if you now put three of them, English, Afrikaans, and Xhosa, into one pot, you get a nice mix. So I think that was always the difference in like how players gelled and got along very well. And the leadership we had at the time, the coaches and the captains, made sure to play on that. And I think that's why, a lot of players did well when they got here. And Afrikaans, I spoke about English. And when you speak about two guys must play other teams, English and Xhosa guys would be smaller than the Afrikaans. It would be all dominated. They will have a different vibe as to when they come here and experience it. So, and I think it's still the same to this day, and that's what the Sharks is all about, So the message that you're saying, what message do you give? So for me, I think we touched on it earlier, in the fact that, the one thing that gives you the opportunity to change your life and to impact your community is the talent that you have. So without your talent, you'll struggle to really reach your potential. So you have to look after your talent. I'm sure, I don't know, do you watch F1?
Yeah, now and then.
So the nice example I like to use is the cars that those guys have. So those cars, they spend a lot of time designing and making sure that it runs at its optimal. So same as players, your body is that car. So you gotta look after your body, because your body is what allows you to perform week in, week out. So I don't necessarily need to go into details about how you do that, but it's very important to understand that this is your car. This is Max Verstappen's Red Bull racing machine. If you don't look after this, it's not going to perform on the weekend. But if you look after this, you can perform week in, week out. And nowadays, they play more games than we did when we played in Super Rugby. So, which makes it even more important to look after umzimba wako. Otherwise, you might run short. So, for me, just make sure you look after your body and your well-being.
Well, there you have it. A legend having to look after your body. Tata, thank you. I think, we can speak so highly of you, but you are an important cog, not only in South African rugby, but just in a community like KZN. I don't think your story is told enough. I don't think people kwasekhaya, eMthatha, eMonti, Xuwa, you name it. Like, I don't think your story has impacted quite a lot as it has. And And I hope to bring that message. And my hope is to bring not only Elako, but Putuako Akona, which I'm hoping to speak to him next week or sometime, so that, you know, these types of stories are told. And these are the types of stories that inspire others. Daguva with Oman Pimpi and your Lucanios, but, you know, they had to run, they had to see Abo Ndungane twins walk the journey before they can run. And I thank you for that. I thank you for, you know, being impactful to the Sharks in whatever capacity that you do. And of course, Nalape Kaya Hollywoodbets, because we're looking forward to seeing you with Debin July. I've seen Ashlako, and it's winning. So, you know, hopefully we can put some money in that. Yeah. But no, thank you for your time. And yeah, like, you're such an inspiration. And yeah, I'm looking forward to tell more stories of you. I'm sure there's a tons, but no, Engos Kakul.
Good man. Thank you so much, Lilitha, for those kind words. And it's nice to meet you. Hopefully we'll bump into each other and have more.
Hope so too.